Hey Malay, can I interest you in 40 billion today? Orange, you glad we got fiat currency Federal Reserve printing presses? We are told that the US bailout of Argentina will cost Americans nothing. It's all gonna come from the private sector. That's what they tell us anyway, and I always believe the government because they would never lie to us. That's right, the Trump administration is looking to provide an additional $20 billion in financing for Argentina through a mix of financing from sovereign funds and the private sector. And that would come on top of the $20 billion credit swap line that the U.S. Treasury pledged to Argentine President Javier Milei and his government this month to bolster the South American nation's collapsing currency. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told reporters on Wednesday, "We are working on a $20 billion facility that would complement our swap line with private banks and sovereign funds that I believe would be more focused on the debt market." He called it a private sector solution and said many banks are interested in it and many sovereign funds have expressed interest. Now, the government's current claim is that the U.S. Argentina currency swap line funds come from the U.S. Treasury's Exchange Stabilization Fund, or ESF. In case you don't know, this is a $221 billion government reserve used for foreign exchange interventions and liquidity support. So at this point, you might ask, where does that reserve money come from? Good question. We're told the Exchange Stabilization Fund, or ESF, reserve money primarily comes from U.S. Treasury gold and foreign currency holdings, which was originally established in 1934 with gold revaluation profits. Number two, the profits from foreign exchange operations and interventions. And number three, borrowings and appropriations from Congress or Treasury general funds when needed. The wild claim is that the ESF is essentially a self-sustaining pot of government resources for stabilizing currencies and providing emergency liquidity. The U.S. Treasury provides real U.S. dollars from the ESF in exchange for Argentine pesos, which Argentina can then draw on for liquidity. Essentially, a temporary loan of genuine U.S. dollars, not inflated notes or devalued paper, they tell us. It's collateralized and expected to be repaid with interest, reportedly with no net cash loss to the U.S. But we all know that the U.S. government can't possibly possess things that they didn't first steal from Americans. So in truth, the exchange stabilization funds come from Americans or the theft of gold from other countries like the U.S. foisted in 1971 on every nation that trusted us with their gold after World War II when they violated the Bretton Woods Agreement through Nixon to peg the reserve currency to $35 an ounce gold. Remember, Nixon closed the gold window on August 15th, 1971? At a White House meeting on Tuesday with Milei, Trump said his administration wanted to help, quote, our neighbors with the aid package, but he also suggested that the money could be pulled if Milei's party didn't prevail in the October 26 midterm elections. Trump said, if he loses, we're not going to be generous with Argentina. That almost sounds like a quid pro quo. Nah, it's probably just me. The Argentine peso weakened slightly on Wednesday after Trump's comments. The peso, which is the currency the Argentinians rely on to save, depreciated about 0.75% with the dollar, trading at 1,395 pesos compared with the 1,385 pesos the previous day. Basically, Trump and Milei stole the value of the product of the Argentinians' time and labor by devaluing the peso and at the same time creating an artificial demand for the failing dollar. On Wall Street, shares of major Argentine companies rose slightly after dropping as much as 8.1% on Tuesday on Trump's comments. In Argentina, the opposition's criticism was swift. The former president, Cristina Fernandez, who's under house arrest after a corruption conviction, wrote on social media, Trump to Milei in the United States. Our agreements depend on who wins the election. Argentines, you already know what to do. The president of the centrist radical civics union said, quote, Trump doesn't want to help a country. He only wants to save Milei, and that nothing good can come of this. Maximiliano Ferrero, head of the opposition Civic Coalition, called Trump's comments, quote, a blatant act of extortion against the Argentine nation. Economically, that's true. This is a national theft in broad daylight, and because most people don't understand macroeconomics, few will question this bailout. Now, a key motivation that I think fake stream news won't cover is that this is meant to counter Chinese influence in Argentina. The U.S. swap line helps Milei stabilize his economy without turning to Beijing for loans or infrastructure deals. See, China holds about $18 billion in Argentine debt and eyes lithium and rare earth minerals. Trump explicitly backs Milei to pivot Argentina toward U.S. interests, reducing its reliance on China's Belt and Road and BRICS ties. Another huge issue in our current dollar devaluation crisis is that this bailout creates temporary artificial demand for the U.S. dollar by injecting liquidity into Argentina's reserves. And this forces them to acquire and hold dollars via the swap in exchange for pesos. What does this do? Well, it props up the dollar usage short term, and it counters peso devaluation while discouraging dollar flight to alternatives like the yuan and loans from China. And this aligns with the U.S. goals to maintain dollar hegemony in emerging markets. It's not new demand, but recycled ESF dollars designated for this stabilizing effect. Historically speaking, what the U.S. government is telling you about this Argentina bailout is a damn lie. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comments section below. If you like these videos and you want to support the channel, you can do it for free. Just like this video, share this video with everybody you know, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell notification icon so that when I upload a new video, you'll be the first one to see it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I look forward to reading them, and I'll see you in the next video.